Do 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 do. Do 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 Doctor Who, Doctor Who, do 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 season two, season two, do 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 Doctor Who, Doctor Who, do 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 season two, season two, ranked. Hi, how's it going? We are doing the stream. Hope we're all good today. Felicia's off selling her wares, so I'm unsupervised. Okay, so we're going to be ranking season 2 of Doctor Who today, and what I will be saying right off the bat is there will be one episode going in the vomit soup pile. But I'm going to leave it up to you to guess which one that is until we get to it. Spoilers, it's not the one you probably think it is. Let the chaos begin. Thank you, The Void. Okie dokie. Let's just start with episode 1, shall we? I think that's a very good idea, don't you? Okay, so we're starting off with the Christmas Invasion, David Tennant's debut. And what can really be said about the Christmas Invasion? Well, I think that it's an excellent story, and these are the reasons why I think it's an excellent story. I think that making you wait for the Doctor to come in is such a genius idea. Because, like, it puts the audience in the shoes of the other characters and vice versa. I really love this kind of, like, throwback Pertwee Quatermassey vibe that the story has, because it's so much based around, like, the Earth level, like, human characters trying to solve everything. I love that. The Sycorax are great as well. I kind of think they have a little bit of a budget faction paradox vibe going with their aesthetics and stuff. Not necessarily with the way they behave, but I kind of wonder, I wonder, Russell. Anyway, David Tennant is amazing in his first appearance. Even though I think that some of the later ones don't necessarily work as well, his first one, he, like, pops it every single fucking second that he's on screen. He's incredible. The Void needed more Doctor. I got really tired of Rose's pity party. I adored the stuff with Harriet Jones. I adored the stuff with Harriet Jones as well. I thought that was excellent. I like the cheeky incest joke about the royal family. You know, why else would they all have the same blood type? Also, who undressed the Doctor? Well, that's a mystery for the ages, isn't it, Jackie? That's my headcanon, and I'm not going to change it. I would say, overall, pretty solid episode all around. It's not really exceptional, but there's some really cool stuff in there. I love the stakes. I love how, like, urgent and serious it feels, especially because they could have, like, gone very light and fluffy after what happened at the end of the first season, and they chose not to, and, like, that shows a little bit of, like, strength of conviction that I respect quite a lot. I like the fact that he's saved by a cup of tea. I like the fact that Rose sarcastically says that it's the solution to everything, and that it turns out to actually be the solution to everything. That was cool. I enjoyed that quite a lot. Who designs She Looks Tired was totally a brash at Eccleston, like, surely. Yeah, probably. To be honest. Probably was. Sorry, Krista. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I really wish that Christopher Eccleston had, like, had this season. Like, I love David Tennant, but, like, I really wish we got to see what was, like, planned. Because it really does feel like this season had a course correction in general. The Void, a lot of respect for the start of the modern Christmas specials. Yes, that's true. This is the first Christmas special, and it's a very good one. The Christmas specials come and go, in my opinion, in terms of quality, but, like, this was a very, very, very strong starter. I like this a lot. Let's see. I'm gonna say hot chocky milk. I think it sets out and does all the things that it, like, means to do very well. The fact that the Doctor's not in it a lot, it's kind of like your mileage may vary thing. You know what I mean? That very much comes down to personal taste. But personally, I don't mind it because it was used to tell a story that you can't tell if the Doctor's there. So I really respect that. So yeah, I'm going to stand by my choice of hot chocky milk. And now we're going to move on to New Earth. What does chat think about New Earth? The one with the cat people and Cassandra. Yeah, remember Cassandra from the first season? really good performance, and in this one too. But I do have some stuff to say about it, to be honest, about the whole episode in general. I think that it's very glurgy at the beginning. I think that the way that Ted and Rose are played off is very over the top, and I can see why some people loved it and some people hated it. Personally, I don't mind the Doctor like having romances, but I don't like the fact that it's with a 19-year-old girl, and I don't like the fact that it's played the way that it's played. And that's something that I find a degree of discomfort with this season in general, especially because they played it a lot better and a lot more subtly and a lot more like carefully in the first season. The Void, I thought it was a fantastic first outing for 10. We'll get into that. I like the tone that it has. I like how like bouncy it is. I think I kind of have this might be a personal bugbear, but like I'm not the biggest fan of doing characters out of character stories really early into a run of like any show. Star Trek has made this mistake with The Next Generation, their second episode. And I don't know, like I feel like you have to know a character like really well for you to be able to see them be like out of character, and we got that with Rose, but we haven't really gotten to know this version of the Doctor yet. So I think I would be more warm to that if it was like earlier in the story, maybe. I like the return to not the return to. I like the introduction of New York. I think that's very, very good, and I like the fact that it's brought back later. It creates a sense of world building, because I know there's a lot in like the present day, but people underestimate just how much there is in like the far future stuff as well. I was very impressed by that. What I was not impressed by, aside from the body swapping stuff being a bit too early in the season for me, was the resolution. The idea of the Doctor just like mixing all of these things together and it magically being what works to like cure all of these people. No. Basically, just no. I get that like to a certain degree Doctor Who is like a fantasy show, but that crosses the line for me in terms of being too silly. And I get that that's like a personal line, but for me like that's a bit too ludicrous, especially when they start passing on the cure by touch, because that is not how vaccines work at all. So yeah, I'm gonna say Midi City pretty solidly for New Earth. I don't think it like crosses the line into being bad, because I do think there's a lot of charm and I think the performances are excellent. However, I think the issues it has kind of hold it back from really going into like the great category. Who designs? I think setting the pretense that anything can be cured is interesting. First, because you can't cure having your companion thrown into a parallel universe. The Void. Ironically, Enemy Within for the original series was quite early on, season 1. Yeah, that's very true. Kira, I'm joining late, and so far I half agree and half don't. Well, buckle up! Okay, so what have we got next? We got Tooth and Claw, we got the werewolf episode, and oh boy, I have some things to say about this one. My god. Do you want me to go with like the surface level stuff first, or do you want me to go with the more serious stuff, basically, with this one? Let's go with the surface level stuff first. I think the first strike for this one, boo, monarchy! Yeah, we'll get into it. Trust me, we're going to have a little history lesson in a bit. So, the bit that really, really, like, signaled to me that I was going to have a bad time with this episode, because I haven't seen it in a while, was the Scottish kung fu monks who, like... Okay, fair enough. You want to do an action scene. Fair enough, you've got a hold of this incredibly fucking talented kung fu group, right? Well done. However, why are you going to shoot it like Garbo? Why are you going to cut every time anything happens, ever? Like, why are you going to make it look like it's the Bourne Identity? Surely the point of getting these people who can do these incredible, balletic, athletic, like, flowing movements is to actually show that on screen. And it's a dumb idea to start with. But if you're going to do a dumb idea, at least execute the dumb idea well. That made me really angry, like irrationally angry. And it didn't get better from there. And why? I'll tell you for why. Who Designs Audio's the Monk Tricks Void, the Fist of Man is still an awesomely silly line. Yeah, he really fisted that farmer, didn't he? So, yeah, I like the idea of the werewolf, but I don't really like the execution. I think that the CGI has dated horribly. I kind of wish they'd gone for kind of like a more practical led thing. I think it would have been better executed, maybe see it a lot less. I think what really bothers me about it is we'll get into the like historical political stuff in a minute, but I just want to talk about the production side of this one first. I don't like that all of the scares and kills and stuff are just lifted from other horror movies. It's super derivative. It almost feels like it doesn't really have a soul of its own. I mean, like, there's a kill that's straight from Alien 3. The werewolf transformation is just, they did American Werewolf in London. Like, they just did that. They didn't add anything to it. They didn't put any kind of special twist on it. They just did that. I don't know. I really didn't vibe with how they did the action-adventure side of the plot. In terms of, like, the mystery about the diamond, I thought that was well constructed. I also thought that it was that diamond, that beautiful diamond, 40% larger, 40% more of that incredible rock, and it was just shaved off for this. Let's get into the more serious stuff now. So, Queen Victoria and the yassification of her monarchy. This is the beginning. I'd say the Charles Dickens one does this to a lesser extent, although most of his crimes were more just being a bit of a dick, like, personally. Look it up. With Queen Victoria, she was a pretty terrible person who did a lot of terrible stuff. And the fact that this episode goes so far to, like, glorify her and kind of make her, like, she's our morally ambiguous queen, I don't like it. It kind of gives me the ick a little bit. Especially because, like, so a year after this, she presided over a purge of all the progressives and liberals from the British Parliament. And, like, every time that any member of Parliament would, like, move against her, she'd, like, threaten to abdicate. She was crazy. She was straight up crazy. And she pushed to make herself Empress of India, by the way. All in all, a bad egg. And a lot of that stuff happened before she was a werewolf, so that's not really an excuse. I'm going to put it in bad regular edition. It has escaped the vomit soup. For now. So, next up we have School Reunion. And School Reunion is a really, really interesting one. Wow, so far this season's not doing great, is it? Where is this one gonna go, huh? Well, let's talk about it. I've got the cold. But I keep going, because you people need a show. The Fist of Man. Just looking back at the chat. So, School Reunion. I got a little bit sidetracked there. School Reunion is really good. Basically, end of story. No, I'll take it a bit. I don't like the romantic thing with Sarah Jane. They had a sibling vibe. Yeah, I kind of feel that as well. I think there's some parts where you could, like, read into that if you really, really, really tried to. But, like, even if there was attraction there, it was not to the degree that it was suggested in School Reunion. That's very much a retcon. Much like her traveling with K9. No one saw K9 and Company. I like the Krillitane. I like the Demon Headmaster vibes. They were very open about the fact that they were taking influence from Demon Headmaster as well. Because, like, the little girl that gets, like, eaten up at the beginning of the episode, she's like an orphan girl and stuff, that is an analog for the main character of, like, Demon Headmaster. It's pretty interesting, I think. But yeah, Anthony Head as the main Krillitane. He does a fantastic job. He is an incredible presence, and he does so well against David Tennant. He does so well at like creating like this air of menace, because honestly, if he wasn't good, the whole thing wouldn't be good. The whole thing would fall apart if like you had the wrong actor playing that role. The Void, to be fair, the K9, the Five Doctors kept that too. That's true. That's true. I forget that. I don't know why, but I always forget the Five Doctors happened. It's really good too. I really like the Five Doctors, but for some reason it just falls out of my brain. Who designs audios? School Reunion has good ideas, but exists only for a spin-off setup, I think. I hope Mel is treated a little better in terms of the romantic stuff you mentioned. I hope they don't do that at all, because she travelled with the Sixth Doctor. No. I really hope not. Oh, no. No, no, no. Why would you do that, Who Designs? Why? Oh. Oh, oh, oh. 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 What was I talking about again? A little bit that just struck me. Speaking of K9, that I think is funny. There's two things that are actually funny about K9. The first one is, so you know when he does the laser gun and like shoots the bats out of the sky, right? How come he dead eyes the first like 4 or 5 of them, and then he's like missing almost every other shot? Like, explain that. Let's see. Void adored the headmaster. He was absolutely perfect. The scene with him, you really got to see Ten's age. Yeah. That was wonderful. I loved that scene so much. I love a good confrontation scene between two like really powerful characters. It's my favorite type of thing. I would say this one. I'm gonna put it in hot chocky milk. Because even though I'm not a fan of the romance stuff either, I think that it executes it as well as they possibly could. But also, don't do that with Mel. Don't. So The Girl in the Fireplace is next. Who wrote this one again? That's okay. I'm sure we'll never hear of him again. Anyway, Girl in the Fireplace. The Turf in the Fireplace. Well, it's really good. It's really good. And part of me like hates that it's really good because the lady who plays Marie Antoinette is like a bad person, but it's really good. She's alright in it. I don't know. She's okay. But the script just kind of fizzles. And they're really pushing like the idea that the Doctor can like fuck now in this one. They're like really pushing it, and like I think it's weird that they decided to dedicate a whole episode to it. I also think it's very funny that they went with like the false lead love interest trope by like being like, well, some people are going to complain about Rose, so let's soften that by giving him this like love interest that doesn't work out, so people are okay with the idea. All right, it's a bit soap opera if you ask me, but I mean, in terms of executions of that idea, it's incredibly good. I love the clockwork robots. I think they're a marvelous idea and design for a monster. I think that the concept of like the door in time and like things coming in and out of it, and like the horsey, I love a good horsey. All of the dialogue, I like the little I'll explain later as well, the little reference to Curse of Fatal Death. It's very surface level, but it's cute. Overall, I just think this is a really well-paced story, and it's one of the first times the Doctor Who like makes use of time travel mechanics in a way that aren't something that we've seen in like everything else. Specifically, it's stuff we've seen in The Time Traveler's Wife. And it's interesting that a lot of the tropes and tools that Moffat kind of became really known for like in his run, you can kind of see more at work here almost than anywhere else. Who designs Deep Breath did the clockwork robots better. I agree, but I'm not sure if it's as good an episode as this. But we'll get to that when we get to season 8, I guess. Void, with that line Moffat began to make his spoof canon. Yes, the encanoning of Curse and Fatal Death. That's very true. So where am I going to put it? That's the real question, isn't it? I think think it's going to go in hot chalky milk. Because it is not perfect. And I will talk about the criticisms now I have of it. The mild criticisms. But I don't think Mickey needs to be in the story and doesn't really contribute anything. He's only there basically so he can get yeeted out of the series in like the next episode. So that kind of drags it down a little bit, because that's always going to be time that can be allocated to the main story, and that's going to be like a minus from me. I think that I don't know if I'm going to get like people being angry at me for this, but I don't really like the way the 10th Doctor is written in this one, and you can start to see some of the symptoms of like issues that would crop up in like the 11th Doctor's run in this. Specifically his like how in control he presents himself as being of the situation. It goes beyond what 10 has been established to be up until this point, and I feel like it kind of messes with stuff a little bit. The Void, the weird thing about wanting to snog someone you knew as a kid. Yeah, that's true. That's also very kind of gross, because I mean, from a certain point of view, doesn't 10 kind of accidentally groom Renette a little bit? Which is a bit ironic given the circles that the actor moves in now. I don't know. Yeah, the age gap is pretty gigantic, but then again, the age gap is pretty gigantic between him and Rose as well. The maturity gap as well is pretty interesting between him and Rose, and I feel like they try to compensate for that. There's that very unfortunate thing of Moffat saying that like, oh, she's posh, so she's the kind of woman that the Doctor would go for, and it's like, okay, I know that you're into that, bro. But I would hope that the Doctor would be less class discriminatory in their choices there. Yeah, fair enough. The Void, not a fan of Doctor relationships as a whole. I think they can work. I just don't think that this is the way to make them work. To be honest, it's funny as well, because I would say that Moffat does it a little better than Russell does, but we'll get to that when we get to like the later seasons. Right now, we are winding up talking about The Girl in the Fireplace, because it's already been rated. So fundamentally, there's no real mystery there, is there? Let's move on to the next one. Do. Please don't copyright strike me, Murray. Rise of the Cybermen. What do you guys think I think of Rise of the Cybermen? I'm quite curious, actually. Well, Rise is amazing, superb retelling. That's something I wanted to get into. Is this a retelling of the invasion, or is this a retelling of Genesis of the Daleks? Or is it I just dropped my inhaler. Or is it a retelling of Spare Parts? The correct answer to that question is yes. Also, Pete will always be best Tyler. Pete is pretty great, isn't he? So yeah, the Rise of the Cybermen, Rise of the Cybermen, in fact, even. It's good, I would say. I would say it's not like the best. I would say it certainly doesn't hold a candle to it doesn't hold a candle to the Slovene episode, and it certainly doesn't hold a candle to Dalek. I will say that. However, it is a remarkably solid, like as the Void said, retelling of a lot of really classic stories. And while if we're talking as like a standalone thing, I kind of wish it was just a remake of Spare Parts. They did a very good job, and it does a very good job of like leading into the finale as well. I think that the stuff with modern technology I kind of have mixed feelings about, because it doesn't, after it makes the criticism, it doesn't really go anywhere with that, and you can kind of boil the criticism down to like technology bad. And now that Doctor Who is kind of under the wing of a multimedia conglomerate that owns 42% of the global media share, it just kind of feels a bit odd to me. I don't know. Who designs? 10's actually quite nasty, I think. In a scene where it's revealed Parallel Rose is a dog and he just laughs, while Rose was kind of hoping that this version would have both parents alive. Womp womp. I know. That was rough. That was very rough. Because he got weird about Cybermen in our universe after. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, so another issue I kind of have with this one is the world building is very vague. Um, why is this world gone to hell, basically? Like, why is this world like a BioShock game? I would like that explained. If someone could explain that to me. Um, did Oh, I'm not buffering. That would suck. Okay, we're back. We're back in the room. Oh. Hang on, I'm having some connection issues. Give me 1 second. Okay, you're going to have some buffering, but we're going to try and power through this, alright? So Rise of the Cyberman. Yeah, my issue with the world building, I would say. We don't really get any kind of even hint as to what has caused this world to, like, go wrong. My personal headcanon is that, in this universe, Roosevelt was never president. And, yeah, so, like, the New Deal never happened. And as a result, capitalism run amok even more than it has in our universe. And that's why the rich are all living up in blimps. That's why you have, like, kind of a technocratic kind of vibe to everything. That's why there's a curfew for, like, poor people, basically. I would say it's probably something to do with that. Or something like that. But, that's just me. Overall, I'm gonna say Hot Chocky Milk or Midi City. Yeah, I think the character building is lacking with Mickey, and I'm not a big fan of the fact that John Lumick is just a less interesting Davros. Like, they even do the stuff where he's being, like, stopped from doing stuff by a committee. Like, his plot line is beat for beat, like Genesis of the Daleks. Chucky, the void is asking for Chucky. Oh, I don't know. No, it's good. It's good because it has that bit where they're being cyber converted, and he puts on The Lion Sleeps Tonight, and that's like very much getting the Cybermen right. So I'm gonna give it, and it's pretty based as well. I do like the fact that it's nakedly anti-capitalist, but that might just be leaning towards my own personal biases. Yeah, Chucky. Lumick deserves Chucky. Yeah, as much, even though he is a less interesting Davros on paper, like, he's very good. Roger Lloyd Pack, rest in power. He's wonderful in this. He's deliciously hammy, and it's kind of fun because in a way, like, this Earth, this like parallel Earth, they are this universe's version of that because we don't ever see the Daleks in this universe. And, like, if there wasn't a Doctor, then there wasn't a Time War, so where would they be, right? The Age of Steel. Age of Steel. Does it live up to what the first one builds, is the real question. Let's talk about the stuff I like. Let's talk about the stuff I don't like. I don't like the fact that the Doctor suddenly has, like, a way to vaporize them when it was established how important it was that that thing be charged through, like, the first episode. I thought that was a bit... I also don't get why the Cyberman just decided to murder everyone indiscriminately when they could have easily converted more people. That was a bit odd to me. Because, like, at the end of the day, once the president gets, like, hooked up to the conversion unit, it doesn't matter what he thinks. His opinion doesn't matter. And Cybermen have, like, the strength of 10 men. Telling me you can't overpower one Don Warrington? Nah, get out of here, son. So, overall, I would say... I'm kidding. I have more to say than just that. I like the cyber leader design a lot. I think that still keeping him kind of a character was a very good move. It adds a little bit of, like, extra drive and purpose. I don't like the fact that Mickey just knows how to fly the blimp because PlayStation. At least say it's a flight simulator. No, it's stupid. That's very stupid and super convenient. It's all a bit Indiana Jones in, like, the wrong way. especially when like the first part was this like weird, almost kind of Black Mirror before Black Mirror existed, like techno thriller, for it to kind of lean so hard into the big dumb action in the second part, kind of pulls it down a little bit. However, there are some really, really good individual scenes in this. I love the part where the Doctor and Mrs. Moore. The fact that I can remember a bunch of the side characters' names in this is generally a barometer of whether it's a good episode or not. Good continuation. I think Mickey's exit didn't have enough burn to it. I don't care if he stays. Yeah, I feel that way too. I'm not a big fan of that, personally. It didn't really hit right for me. All of the drama with Mickey didn't really hit right for me in all of this, basically. It felt very rushed. It felt very haphazard. Was not a fan, essentially. Unfortunately, as well, I have to say. At the same time, like, fuck Noel Clarke. So, yeah, small loss. I'm going to put it in Midi City. I don't think it lives up to what the other one does. I like the bit where the Cyberman's laying on the ground and it's like, turns out it's a lady who's waiting for a wedding. I thought that bit was very heartbreaking. I thought the bit where it was Jackie Tyler and she was a Cyberman and then she got pulled away and then she lost her individuality amongst the crowd. That was very good as well. Very much playing into the core idea of why the Cybermen are like really frightening is like they take away your personhood. You know what I mean? Like, initially it was obviously like the fear of artificial limbs because we were very paranoid and bigoted towards disabled people in the 60s. Now, I think that the way you make Cybermen scary is you look into how it takes away your personhood, basically, and like the violatory nature of that. And I think that's very, very strong in this episode. The Cybermen are my favorite monsters in Doctor Who, so I feel very strongly about them. And while I think this story is a bit sloppy in places, I do think that it does a pretty good job of making the Cybermen seem like effective and frightening. I just think that the character drama stuff around that really doesn't work in this one and falls flat for me. The Void, I think the whole two-part set a standard that for the Cybermen that in the modern series they've not reached. I kind of agree with that. I think the only other Cyberman story that has surpassed this one was World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls. I prefer Dark Water and Death in Heaven to this, but it's not a pure Cyberman story in the same way that like World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls is. But we can get into that. World Enough and Time Gang. Yeah, World Enough and Time Gang. World Enough and Time is definitely going in the fried gold pile. Spoilers for that one. Yeah, Age of Steel goes right there. Guess which one we're gonna do next? Where do you think I'm gonna put it? Let's talk about it. So, The Idiot's Lantern. The Idiot's Lantern. Okay. I'll get into it, The Void. Don't worry. You can probably guess what my... If you know me, which people in the chat do, you probably know what my opinion of this one is. Fuck this episode. I'm not even going to do the pretense of a review. I'm just going to tell you why it's awful. For starters, the oh, it's all Queen establishment worship, like, disgusting, especially for like how transgressive Doctor Who can be sometimes. Like, disgusting. I don't know. I don't like how pro-establishment in general this season is, especially with like the first season said that all politicians were like monsters and that the global media apparatus was run by fascists, and to go from that to like this, because bear in mind the story isn't critical of the coronation or the monarchy once. Not once. Okay? So yeah, that's bad. Yeah, I'm going to burn it with the power of the sun. I will, Void. This is happening right now. That's the first thing, okay? The establishment worship in this episode is horrific. It's absolutely horrific. That's the first thing. The second thing, so in the script for this, and I mean it's pretty laid in. The main kid is meant to be like gay, and bear that in mind because that's going to be important. Okay, the biggest issue with this story, the big overhanging one, and I'm gonna be real. Okay, I make fun of Chris Chibnall a lot for doing weird conservative stuff with his messaging. I personally think because he's bad at political messaging, I'm not going to assume anything bad on his character. Frankly, he seems like a lovely man. I just don't think he has any business doing social commentary. This one is the original Chibnall moment. I'm gonna break it down, okay? So, this is a story all about how it's about abuse. It's about parental abuse. That's what this story is about. Content warning, by the way, if that's something that upsets you. I'm very sorry. However, we have to talk about it. So, the dad's a horrible human being. He's a real piece of shit. You know, they don't give you any indication whatsoever that this is someone who's even interested, let alone capable of redemption. Okay? Right. Why the fuck does Rose tell the kid who is gay, and this is in the 50s, to go and reconcile with his dad? Why? What justification could there possibly be for that? Why would you bungle it like that? Like, you had a chance to, like, actually reach out and, like, do something for abused kids, and you decided to throw it in the trash. For family values. You know, because this season of the show is a lot more pro-establishment than the other seasons, as evidenced by this. No. I reject it. I reject this reality. As far as I'm concerned, this episode can burn in a fire. It's going in vomit soup. The first vomit soup of this series, I might add. I don't think I put anything else, any vomit soup in for season 1. So this is already kind of kicking season 1 is already kind of kicking this one's ass, I have to say. It's weird to think of a universe where 9 would have done these episodes. Yes, it is. It is super weird to think of that. I can't even imagine that. So, where are we going next? The Impossible Planet. Bit Event Horizon, bit Alien. I like it. I'm not going to mince words. It's good. Is it really good? That's a good question. But it's good. So I like a good bit of religious horror. I think it's a fun genre. I think that to me, religious horror, especially Christian religious horror, it's indistinguishable from like cosmic horror, because I mean, frankly, the idea of a Christian god is pretty horrifying. But oops. Yeah, this is just wonderful piece of work. Wonderful piece of work. The side characters are all wonderfully realized, and the way that they're built is so natural and so realistic, and you come away from the story like feeling like you want to know more about each side character, and that's indicative of some really strong scripting. The monster himself is wonderful. The beast. The setup in this is pretty beastly, if you ask me. The Ood, though. We have to talk about the Ood, don't we? Because that's an unfortunate sticking point of this one. I don't think that this story really criticizes the fact that this is a society that enslaves people enough. Like, the fact that a lot of these characters are, like, really blasé about the fact that they are slave owners is really unusual. I get that, like, you can't have the Doctor, like, fucking go John Brown on him and stuff, but I feel like the narrative could have been a bit more, like, harsh on that, basically. That's the one big criticism I have of this story and of the sequel story, especially because the Doctor doesn't even try to save him. He has to save the archaeologist lady, because because she's more valuable than the hundreds of Ood. To the Doctor. Anyway, I'm going to put it in hot chocolate milk because it is remarkably solid. And there's a lot of stuff in it that kind of doesn't work for me, but the stuff that does work works so well that it overrides it. The stuff that doesn't work, by the way, Toby's makeup. I get that they spent a long time on it. I get that it was a lot of work, but it doesn't look good. I'm sorry. The fact that it looks so round and smudgy kind of undermines any horror for me, personally. But that's just me. Also, the red eyes. I think if he just had the red eyes, it would have worked a lot better. Maybe like the red eyes and like make him kind of paler. I think that could work. I don't know. I feel like they needed to go more subtle with it though. Because this episode really wears its influences on its sleeve. Mainly the movie Event Horizon. Because this is the movie Event Horizon with Doctor Who in it. If you haven't seen the movie Event Horizon, watch Event Horizon and then watch this. And then you'll be like, oh, it's the same thing. But as Event Horizon riffs go, it's pretty great. So, yeah, I'm going to put it in hot chocolate milk. And now we're going to talk about the Satan Pit. The Satan Pit. The Satan Pit. What do we think of the Satan Pit? So, normally, in two-parters in the David Tennant era, they kind of throw away a lot of their... they throw away a lot of the stronger elements in what they're doing, basically. In the second parts. Because they sacrifice it for, like, action and adventure. When they set up a lot of plot elements that they need to, like, resolve. And because of that, they don't usually have as much time to, like, resolve them as they would need to. Everything's kind of allocated a little bit topsy-turvy. Writing, obviously, like time management and how much time you like have in a story and how you allocate stuff to that is very, very, very important. And I just kind of feel like they fluffed it a little bit in this one, to be honest. So, yeah, I would say this one, the Satan Pit, while it doesn't belong in Midi City, it skirts a little lower on the hot chocolate milk spectrum for me than the Impossible Planet does. However, it does do a little better than some of the other part 2s do, at like executing well on what it's like what it's promising, like the promise of premise. I think the final confrontation with the Beast is it's a bit rushed. But then that's generally a criticism of I think you can apply to most of New Who in terms of their climaxes. I definitely think that New Who has a climax problem. And I'm not sure if it's sort of one you can get a doctor for, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to say hot chocolate milk. Look what's next. Love and Monsters. Love and Monsters. What do I think of Love and Monsters? Everyone's favourite episode. Alright, I'm going to be real with you. You're probably going to hate me for this, but I think that Love and Monsters is a underappreciated gem, and I will defend it to the death, and I am quite happy to elaborate as well. This really is the first experimental episode of New Who, and they went all in on like taking risks, and I respect it by default for that. I think that the human drama in this is really, really, really strong. The character of Elton is beautifully realized. All of the side characters are beautifully realized. I don't even think the Absorbaloff is that bad. I just think he's kind of goofy. But we'll get into that because it works. Because a big part of storytelling that I think a lot of people forget about is a theme. And I think a lot of people unfairly dismiss this episode because of one kind of tasteless joke at the end of it, which honestly is kind of funny. So, I don't know. Grow up. That would be my response to that. The Void, they really do feel like people, just people who... Yeah, they really do. Like, they feel so much like real human beings. Who designs audios? Fuck the paving slab. No, Elton, no, not... I mean, if Ursula consents, then it's no one else's business, frankly, is it? There we go. discussion over on that front. But yeah, I think that the way that the human characters are like realized in this, and the human drama is wonderful, and it's probably the best Jackie Tyler episode as well. Her monologue about how like the people who get left behind, they get made hard. You know, that's it gives me chills every single time. I don't know. It's fantastic acting, fantastic dialogue, fantastically directed. The one thing I would say about this story that honestly keeps it from being fried gold is that I wish more of it had like the found footage, like YouTube video kind of vibe to it. But I'm okay with it at the same time because I get it. You know what I'm saying? You had to show the flashbacks. It was needed for the script that they were trying to tell. However, in my heart, I kind of wish they'd done that. Here's the real thing about this one, though. And this is why I will defend this one to the death. Because this is a really, really powerful story about fandom. And about how people can be brought together by the love of something and can, like, form wonderful communities on the love of something. I mean, in this case, like, it's a meta commentary on Doctor Who itself. Like, these are all meant to be representative of the different kinds of fans of Doctor Who that there are. And I think it really, really has a lot of power because it shows, like, these spaces, I mean, they're wonderful, but they're also very vulnerable because all it takes is one narcissist with their own agenda to come in and destroy everything, and these people's lives get absolutely destroyed. The Absorbaloff is like a horrible, horrible villain. Like, really, really stop and think. Beyond, like, the design. I get that he's kind of goofy looking, but really think about what he's taking from these people. Like, systematically, one by one. Like, he sits there and, like, he infiltrates their, like, space. And, like, it's just so insidious. I don't know. And to be honest, up until the reveal of the monster, Peter Kay plays that pretty well for someone who's not really an actor. Like, he does a pretty good job. I love it. I don't know. It's fantastic. I'm not sure if I put it in fried gold, but it's definitely a gem. It's really good. If you don't like it, I really recommend you check it out sometime. It takes a community to... Well, it takes a community to rip apart a toxic person. That is very true. Steampunk Doctor, I found the episode boring, but that's my opinion. That's okay. It's valid not to like it. I'm just defending why it's valid to like it. I'm not saying it's wrong to dislike it. I'm just saying that it's not wrong to like it. I guess. Yeah, though, it's a really powerful story. The Void, get this, right? It's about Ian Levine. Watch it again with that in mind. Okay. Fear Her. Chloe Webber. What do I think of this one? Oh, God. I don't like it. I don't like Fear Her. Fear Her's rough. Fear Her's super rough. I think it was really unfair to expect a child actor to do all of that. I really think it was unfair, especially on an episode that they had to rush together, which meant that kid had, like, no time to prepare whatsoever. Really, really unfair set of circumstances there. It's a story about abuse that I think is a little bit, it's a little bit more, like, well-handled than The Idiot's Lantern, although it's still a little bit, like, wobbly in places. I really hate the Olympic stuff. It's super glurgy. It goes back into what I was saying before about how this season feels a lot more pro-establishment than the previous season did. And, like, this is, like, the apex of that, isn't it? Like, oh my God. There's I tell you what, another big problem I have with it, and this was something that I only clocked onto rewatching it. The Doctor's characterization is, like, really wrong in this one. He doesn't seem like the 10th Doctor at all. He seems like a generic Doctor. Like, there's so much stuff, like the eating marmalade. Like, that doesn't seem like something 10 would do. 10 has social graces. It seems like something the 2nd Doctor would do, or the 4th Doctor, or maybe like the 7th Doctor. It doesn't seem like something the 10th Doctor would do. There's lots of stuff like that. His, like, obliviousness in general, it just doesn't vibe for me. It doesn't fit. And it's pretty messed up that the Isolus just, like, leaves Chloe Webber with, like, her dad who's trying to kill her and stuff as well. Like, that's pretty messed up, isn't it? Maybe actually, like, screw the Isolus, right? I know the Doctor is like, oh, I have sympathy for it. It's a kid. But it also, like, tried to destroy the world, so... You know what I mean? I feel like that's a mixed bag there. Much like this season, it seems. Imagine this episode, but there's no alien elements. There's still spooky rumors, and they talk to Chloe, but it's a red herring. Rose and Ten help them come to terms with the past. That drawing is still there, but only Chloe thinks it's alive. That would have been a lot better. I also think that they would not have made that in this season. Maybe in the Capaldi era. That's the only era of New Who I could see them attempting something like that. You're digging up a cancel road. Yeah, that was funny. That was actually pretty funny. That's the one good thing about this episode, is the bit about the cancel. Actually, the mother. So in real life, a lot of abusive relationships, one partner is abusive and the other partner is like an enabler. And she's a very good, like, enabler mom. This is a very good portrayal of that kind of person. So I appreciated that a lot, actually. And those two things are going to keep it from Vomit Soup, but it's not good. It's bad, regular edition. So, we have reached the finale. We've reached the end of our journey. But we're not doing Journey's End until season 4, so, you know. Forget I said anything. Army of Ghosts. Here's what's interesting about Army of Ghosts. I know I've been saying this entire stream that the stories in this season are a lot more pro-establishment than the previous era. I do think it's interesting that they decided to, like, have a human nationalist group be the villains of this. However, after this episode, where Torchwood are rightly the villains, as they should be, they make them heroes and give them a show, you know what I mean? And they, like, completely rehabilitate their image, and they don't even attempt to, like, have them come to terms with any of the terrible things that this Torchwood did. It's just, it's all fine, adventures with Captain Jack, yay! That's a problem, I feel. And it's not a problem with this episode, but it's a systemic problem. Like, there's an issue there in terms of being consistent with what your storytelling is trying to, like, teach, basically. Steampunk Doctor Productions, it touched on that kind of relationship, but again could have been executed better. Yeah, I feel that way as well. It was very kind of looking from the outside in to one of these kind of relationships. Yeah, Army of Ghosts. We're talking about that one now, aren't we? Yeah, sorry, I got distracted reading the chat. ADHD got me again. I like some stuff in it, but I don't like other stuff in it. It's a mixed bag for me. I really like the idea of the Army of Ghosts. I think it's a really interesting, like, sci-fi mystery thread to unpack. However, you know it's the Cybermen, so, like, is there even really a mystery there? You know what I'm saying? I like Yvonne Hartman, like, in terms of the performance. But there's stuff that happens in the second part of this. We'll get into it. But in this one, it's fine. You know? I like the reveal of the Daleks, even though they spoil it in the Next Time trailer. I think it works as a very good raising of the stakes. I would say, overall, The Void, Army of Ghosts is slow to get going, and I feel like Torchwood is an interesting entity which to explore, which they don't. Yes, that is the big issue with it. Still good fun episode. Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying maybe it's not the best. It's definitely not as good as like some of the other like first parts of season finales. Uh I'm gonna put it in Midi City for now. Okay, we're here. We've reached the end. But the moment has been prepared for. Doomsday. This is the story of how I lied. Doomsday is it's fun. I don't know. Like, as much as I sometimes crave Doctor Who to be more sophisticated, especially this era of Doctor Who, it's fun. There's some stuff that I really don't like about it, and I will definitely be like getting into that. But overall, in terms of it delivering on like its action adventure side, it's pretty strong. In terms of delivering on like satisfying conclusions for the side cast, it's pretty good. I think the final scene is very powerful, even as someone who is not a fan of like this ship. That was a really, really well acted and like well written like goodbye scene for Rose. Like, well done. I don't know. I'm gonna give props. Like, there's a reason that that scene is it was voted like the greatest British sci-fi moment of like all time once. So, I mean, there's a reason for that. It is good. However, let's get into some of the bad in this episode. Why would the Daleks, not the Daleks, why would the Cybermen work with the Doctor? That was very silly. The bit where they're having like a bitching contest was funny, and I know that it's like iconic, but it kind of undermines the severity of the situation a little bit. And your mileage may vary as to whether that was a good idea or not. This is the story of how I lied. Thank you. Thank you, Steampunk Doctor. I'm glad you liked that. Oh yeah, I forgot about the framing device. Yeah, the framing device is really rough. I don't like it. I really don't like it. There's a pretentiousness to this one that wasn't there with the first season finale, and that really kind of holds it back. There's one scene in this that I despise, though, with all of my heart. And now we're about to get into it. And it kind of... So you could argue that the fact that this season is really pro-establishment, you could argue that that's, like, not true because of the existence of Torchwood and the idea that Torchwood is, like, a commentary on, like, British nationalism and stuff. Yeah, you can say that. You can say that all you want. However, how fucking ever, right? How come Yvonne is able to beat cyber conversion with the power of her nationalism when she is led away saying, I did my duty for Queen and country? What she's basically saying there is, I was following orders. And we decided how that goes at Nuremberg, frankly. So, I'm going to have to say that kind of destroys any justification that they might have built up with how critical they were with the rest of Torchwood, which, to be honest, they weren't enough, because it still seems like a pretty cool place to work, and those seem like some pretty competent people. And if you're going to do, like, criticism of the far right, don't portray them as competent, cool people. Like, it's insane that Yvonne Hartman, like, is functionally, like, a far-right agitator, but we're Yas Queening her now. I haven't listened to her audios, but that's certainly the impression that it seems to give. So, yeah, not a fan. Not a fan in terms of that aspect of it. And I think if we're talking about messaging, it brings the entire thing down. If we're talking about plot, it's okay. It's a really basic setup payoff plot. It's certainly not as interesting as the one in the previous season, even though it cribs a lot of beats from that as well. In terms of characterization, Jackie's done really well. Pete's done really well. Mickey's done pretty well. Doctor and Rose, take it or leave it. So I think I'm going to have to conclude by putting it in Midi City. So here we have our overall ranking for Doctor Who Season 2. Yeah. Real mixed bag, I would say, overall. Certainly a step down from the previous season, which is a shame, because David Tennant is really, really, really good. And frankly, good Doctor let down by poor writing. That's the main thing I have to say here. Real shame. Real shame about the agenda getting in the way of the storytelling. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's all I have to say for now about these actual episodes. Does anyone have any questions? Funny, but what the hell? I mean, I had to say it, Void. Come on. I think that the season 3 is probably better than this. I remember liking season 3 a lot more than season 2, and I like Martha a lot more than I like Rose. So I'm looking forward to doing season 3, and I'm really looking forward to doing season 4, because I love season 4. I think season 4 is the main reason that this era is remembered as iconic, basically. Yeah. So I'm going to say this is probably the end of the stream. Thank you for joining me, everyone. And, yeah, have a lovely night. Peace!